Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Elisa Hill. I'm the Consumer Services Manager of Early Start. I'm very excited to have our parents here for our Early Start program. We've had some technical difficulties. We have one of our parents here as our panelist while we work on getting the other parents up here as a panelist. So there will be 5 other parents, if all goes well, to help share their experiences with you. Some of the experiences that they may share are going to be how early intervention supported them as parents and supported their child, what types of services they received and what were provided, and any of their recommendations to decrease any barriers that they experienced or increase any of the successes that they had in the delivery of those services. It's really an open forum for them to share their experience with you. So it's about the parent perspective, letting you know what it was like for them as a parent. We'll have an opportunity at the end for questions, and I'm going to introduce each parent at a time so that they can have some time to talk with you and give you their perspective. So our first parent here is Ms. Rachel Ackerman. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I hope to be a wealth of info to many families. So our experience with Early Start, mine and my husband's experience, started probably about 9.5 years ago. So I actually have 6 children. And my first son, we did not know when we were pregnant, but he ended up having Down syndrome. So our first experience with Early Start started 9.5 years ago. And we were kind of overwhelmed, just trying to figure everything out and process everything at that time. And I remember somebody had called me. I think I don't even know how. Maybe they put a referral through at the hospital. I'm not quite sure. But I got a call from somebody, I think it was like an child development therapist. And she had asked if, I wanted her to come. And I felt so overwhelmed at the time. I kept kind of like pushing it off. I think I pushed it off for probably a few months. And then she said, can I just come and meet with you? And finally I said, well, okay. I thought, what's it going to hurt? Well, let me tell you that was one of the best decisions I ever made as a parent. I had no idea what I was missing. I'm not just saying that. I really didn't. I am a huge advocate for early intervention services based on my experience and my children's experiences. My son, that son in particular, is 9.5 today, and he is thriving. So much of how well he's doing. I mean, so many people comment on it like, wow, he's just really doing well. And I just attribute so much of that to the early intervention services that he got. So many people, have told me along the way how early intervention really does help. And I don't know if I would have fully believed it until I experienced it for myself, but it really did, in particular for him. And then years later, my second son didn't need any services, but then a few years after that, I had another daughter and she needed services. So she ended up getting services, and they were super helpful for her. My oldest is still a regional center client, but my other daughter at that time, she received it till she was 3 and very helpful. I mean, graduated from the program, doesn't need anything else as of today, and super smart, doing great. And then my next daughter, she ended up needing some speech services as well. And she just, I feel like it was very, very helpful for her as well. Unfortunately, she had to go through the process through the pandemic. So we had to do a lot of virtual, and I don't think virtual is as great as in person for services. She was doing a lot of speech. So was happy when the pandemic ended because she was able to have her in-person speech happen again. And then a few years later, I think we have babies every 2 years, it seems like. My daughter Joy actually is a current Early Start client, and she receives her services, and she just restarted receiving them probably about 2 months ago now. And already helpful for her in many ways. I'm starting to see her she's getting child development and PT at this time, and already starting to see her just starting to thrive in different ways that she wasn't before. So like I said, I'm a huge advocate for early intervention. I feel like it's so helpful. I think to parents that haven't experienced it, I just say it is a blessing. Might as well take it. California really, so many people that I speak with always share, California just has, when it comes to early intervention, things like this for children, they are just one of the leading states in this category. And I have to agree. It's been a real blessing for our family and our children. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Sometimes for certain therapies, the therapist can come in home or you can go to the clinic. There's a lot of different experiences that we've had, and it really just depends on what works best for you and your family, or what the schedule of the therapists are at that time. But it's all a blessing. So I say take it, enjoy it, and your children will definitely benefit from it. I don't know if there's anything else anyone wants me to share, but I am welcome to share anything else.
Are there any questions for Ms. Ackerman?
Looks like Dr. Weller has a question. We're going to allow him to speak. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Ackerman, for being here today. My name is Jesse. I'm a staff person here at the Regional Center. And I was wondering about what kind of advice or words of wisdom you would give to parents who where this could be scary or overwhelming about going through this process and taking all this information in. Kind of what words of wisdom would you offer to parents who might be thinking about early start or considering it and not knowing how to take that next step?
Yeah, great questions. I felt like I was one of those parents years ago. I felt kind of overwhelmed by it. I almost didn't want, people coming into my home. I didn't really want to be bothered by all that. I guess it felt like a little overwhelming. And especially when you find that your child might have some delays or something like that. That in itself is sometimes something to, I guess sometimes you're in denial a little bit about it because it's somehow it says something about you or your child or puts a stigma on them or you, but in reality, it really doesn't. I don't want people to feel that way because it really doesn't. So many children, they go through early start and like I said, they graduate and they, any delays that you have seen previously have now been worked out. And it's very helpful. I would say, it's a pretty straightforward, easy process. You just basically fill out the information and everything's kept very confidential. I have to say that Regional Center really does keep information very confidential. It's a lot of times I receive things encrypted, so it's it's pretty safe and secure, it feels like, and everything has always been very professional. Definitely professional and very helpful. The therapists that we've experienced have been incredible. They've been, just experts on things. They teach you just as you go along as a parent, things to be looking for in your child's development that you wouldn't even have thought of. It's interesting because, like I said, I have 6 children. You think I would kind of figure it out after the first one or the second one. But oftentimes each child is so different and you can't remember the ages and stages of things. So, the therapists really do help to kind of lead you and guide you into, okay, this is what they should be doing at this age and things like that. And I just have to say it feels a little nerve-wracking initially when you're starting the whole thing, but once you get in the process of doing the therapies, it's such a blessing to see your child really just grow and bloom and just really benefit from the services that they're receiving. It's so worth it. It really is. I hope that answers that a little bit better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions from our audience? Well, I'd like to know, Ms. Ackerman, we've been through the pandemic now, and with 6 children, and you touched on it a little bit. Can you maybe describe a little bit of what that looked like for you before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and your thoughts about services and just really the social development of the children throughout this last few years?
Yeah, for sure. I would say years ago, I loved it. They had, a lot of group classes, things like that my son was able to be involved in, and everything was in person, which was very helpful. Just, the hands-on with the OT and the speech and things like that, where it really is very helpful to be in person, where they can have that hands-on experience, and then the small groups, so that they can have that social interaction. I feel like over the past, few years, I always say it's like this crazy time warp, it feels like, with the pandemic and COVID happening, because so many children really didn't get to experience that social environment that is so helpful for all of us, but especially for those really little ones that are developing. And even with the masks over the face and things like this, it's very hard for a child to see one's face. And a lot of children learn from mimicking and from watching our behavior, so not able to mimic our speech patterns or see our facial expressions. And I feel like a lot of that really hindered the children and their abilities to almost be developmentally where they should have been. And then it's been so nice because just as of recently, things have opened up more and the services have become in person, which has been very helpful again, because we're going back to that. My one daughter that went through the pandemic, she had speech services, and it was really hard because we did it via Zoom. And via Zoom is very, very difficult. I have to be honest, for just a toddler to be sitting in front of a computer. And, the therapists do the best that they can to engage the child or the children, but just be something about being in person. And then, so even when that lifted and the therapist was able to, we had one that was coming in home. So then she able to come back in home at that time. She still had the mask or the shield, and sometimes the shield would fog up and the mask would be over. It was very, I'm not being honest, it was very difficult for my daughter to really develop those speech skills at that time because of all that. So I think it would have been a little bit more expedited for her in ways if she would have had that, although it's so hard to say. Each child develops at their own pace. But it has been very nice now for to get back to that in person, because I really do feel that hands-on experience is just so helpful. And as a parent, you are doing your job too. You're learning from the therapist. So these are things you're going to implement, obviously,
Para poder implementar estas cosas día a día, porque está aprendiendo distintas técnicas, pero en realidad tener al terapista en persona ayuda.
See things that they need to see, work on things hands-on, and really give the child what they need.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Hello, Ms. Rachel. So you mentioned that you have children that concluded the service with Regional Center, but you also mentioned that you have one of them that is continuing to receive services with Regional Center. Can you let us know about that? How was that transition for those that finished with Regional Center?
Yeah, for sure. So my oldest son, he has Down syndrome. So he has what is considered, I guess he will be a lifelong Regional Center client because of his diagnosis. So I would say the transition normally is once they turn 3, then, well, I shouldn't say once they turn 3, they kind of work up to it where they, if they are about to transition out, I feel like at age 2, they kind of start preparing you, and then 2.5, you have your meeting and things like this. So by the time they transition out at 3, then it goes to the school system if they still need services. And if they become a regional client for life, if they have a diagnosis that is something like my son's, or, one of the ones that is covered, it was actually a very easy transition. Our Regional Center worker did change. I was not aware of that at that time, but we've had really great experiences with our regional workers. We've been very, very happy with them. And I'm not just saying that, we really have. We've been very blessed in that way. The regional workers have been very helpful and just knowledgeable. And it just has always seemed like they really care about helping the children and making sure that the children really do receive those services that they need. So they've been wonderful advocates as well, which has been encouraging to see. And so I would say with my oldest son, the one that still receives services, it was pretty seamless of a transition. They basically, let me know the process and that, he did receive services through the school system, but he also stayed a regional client and receives other services, and his coordinator switched over. And then he receives different services through them at that point. So it kind of transitions, but it really felt pretty seamless. It was, I received a letter and, my worker basically just let me know what was going to be happening. I felt like they kind of walked us through it. So it wasn't just a surprise, although I didn't expect to change workers. So that was probably the only thing I was surprised about. But
Eso fue lo único que me sorprendió, pero me dejaron saber y se presentó.
my son had her for years as well. So
Mrs.
Thank you.
Ackerman, can you share with us all of the different kinds of services your children have received from us?
sure, for sure. So let's see, child development, working on different skills developmentally, OT services, that's occupational therapy. That's more like fine motor or even sensory. So my oldest son, he had a lot of fine motor issues where he couldn't grasp things with his fingers, or he had feeding issues. Things like that would all fall under OT. Or sensory issues. A lot of children with autism, or even if they don't have autism, my daughter doesn't have autism, but she had a lot of sensory issues where she would rock a lot, or even want to bang her head on things, like rocking very hard and things like that. And so she had a lot of sensory seeking issues. And so that would fall under OT as well. And then PT is physical therapy. We've received, I guess, the gamut of them all. The physical therapy. So my daughter wasn't crawling. And my other one, my daughter recently, she's not walking yet, and just delayed in that. So she's already 16 months and still not walking. So we've been really trying to work on that. But so let's see. So child development, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and then speech services as well. All of my I should say the ones that have received services have actually all received speech services. And sometimes they say that sometimes the speech can run in families, the delays and things like that. Although it's interesting because in my case, my children have all different speech issues. So it's not just one thing that they have. It's just, it's kind of all over the board. But like I said, thankful for the program because it addresses all different issues. And that's been very helpful, because for children, they can become so frustrated when they don't have those speech skills that they need. You can see tantrums come out, or, behavioral issues come out just because they can't use their words or share what they want to share. So we've received, I think, all of the services that they have offered, and have been pleased with all of them. And I think I had mentioned we had even done a small group for my son. It was almost, I think it was like maybe 2 and 3 year olds. They work on different skills with them, and social interaction, and just really helpful. I feel like it helped him so much. He started, my oldest son actually didn't walk until he was 3.5. So, I remember him he wouldn't even crawl. He was like scooting up to the front board and would pick things up. But the fact that he could be a part of a group, and he was welcome, and he was still having social interaction because he needed that, was just such a gift to him, that I always say that it was just all those things just added up to help him to be thriving and doing as well as he is. And all my children, honestly, like I said, it's just, each service I think it's invaluable. I really do. I would say again to parents, do not be nervous to start the process. It will not hurt anything. There is nothing wrong with starting the process and, experiencing it and seeing what you think. I think if there's ever a time where you just say, okay, we don't want to do services anymore, I'm sure you could just opt out. But I say start it because it always, I have found in every case with my children in particular, it has always been helpful for them.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from our audience? Do we have any parents who had a difficulty logging in as a panelist that are in our audience that we need to bring forward as a panelist that couldn't log in the first time? You can put it in the chat if you were supposed to be a panelist and you're in the audience. Just let us know. Meanwhile, what I'm going to do, I have some resources that I'm putting in the chat. And then there'll be a Spanish translation as well while we look for any other questions from Ms. Ackerman. Otherwise, thank you. I so appreciate you, Ms. Ackerman, letting us know about your experience and your wealth of information and how much Regional Center has done for you and your family. We're really glad to be here for you and your family.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our family really does thank you from the bottom of our hearts too. When they asked, you know, if I would be willing to be a panelist, I said, sure, we have a crazy busy schedule, but I am a huge advocate for early intervention. So I would love to share with other parents because I was one of those nervous parents and a little leery of everything many years ago, have just completely turned around and have now, you know, sing your praises. So I'm to speak truth to others and let them know that they don't have anything to fear and only good can come. So
excellent. Thank you. And thank you for your time. We do see a lot of families that are here and really benefiting from it when we do have a handful of families who are leery and hesitant. And so it's really nice to be able to have families share their experience with everyone.
Well, I'm happy to do it.
So if we don't have any other questions, what I can do is the three resources that I put in the chat, I can share the links. We can do a share screen and I can kind of explain what they are rather than just providing the resource, unless there's any other direction.
So there's a question in the chat about regional centers in general.
I'm sorry, about what?
Regional centers in general, wondering if we would have advice for parents who don't know anything about regional centers and what's the best approach to help them understand that regional centers are here to help them.
Absolutely. I think that we have, in fact, that's one of the resources that I put on here is the intake application from our website. So the three resources that I have are the CDC website, North LA's website, and DDS's website. All three will help a parent understand what it is that a regional center can do for their family. We have the Early Start program, which is the 0 to 3 program for early intervention. And then we have ongoing regional center services for those who have a child with an ongoing developmental disability. So in order to determine what it is that your child would receive from the regional center is all based on an assessed need. So whether they're in the Early Start program or in the ongoing regional center program, we would develop a plan with you and your family about what it is that you're concerned with as a parent and what it is you'd like your child to be doing. We assess what their strengths and their deficits are, and we together come up with a plan of what services would meet the needs to meet the goals that you want your child to be working on. And so accessing those resources, the first thing you would do is access our website to have a intake application. And then you'd be in touch with our intake department who would walk you through every step that you would need. Did that answer the question? I didn't see the question exactly, but about how to access services. Okay, so what I will do is, let's see, I'm going to, here's the first link. Do I have the ability to share screen?
Yes, you should be able to share.
Okay. I apologize.
Elisa, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. There's one more question from Tina.
Excellent.
She
Mhm.
is saying, thank you. Yes, you answered her question. She's wondering if a person past the age of 3 can use Early Start.
Unfortunately, Early Start is a federal program that does end on a child's 3rd birthday. So the early intervention services that we provide in Early Start are educationally based. So the OTPT speech, child development, and the way that looks under age 3 would be available to a child over age 3 through their school district. So those educational services, although not through Early Start or through the regional center, if your child is with ongoing regional center, or even if they're not, even if there's just a need for speech therapy, let's say, the resource that you would access after age 3 would be your local school district. And if you want to contact us, our intake department, whether over 3 or under 3 for your child, we can help you figure out which school district you belong to and give you the contact information for special education is what it is. They're preschool special education from 3 to 5 to access. It's usually on an elementary school site where those services can be provided. In conjunction with if your child also has a developmental disability with us as ongoing services. So, but the actual Early Start program does end on the child's 3rd birthday. So please feel free to continue to put questions in the chat. I will answer them as they come up. Thank you, Paula, for keeping track of those because it's harder for me to do both. What I will do is share my screen. And I'm going to show you what the first website is. So this is share screen. Oh, one thing. Let me close that. Okay. My apologies. Share screen. Here we go. Can you all see the CDC website?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a website from CDC. The link is, it takes you directly to these documents. These are documents that start at 2 months of age and go all the way. The frequency is usually the well care visits. So the first one's 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and it goes all the way to 5 years old. And so what this does is it describes what it is that the skills that a child should be doing at a certain age. Now understand all skills are at a range. So it's not that there's something wrong if their child is not doing it right at that particular age. You know, all children are different and they develop at different paces. But what this does is it's very helpful information to support your child's development. It talks about what it is most children do at that particular age. It talks about what you pieces of information that are helpful for you to talk to your physician, you know, for their pediatricians, and to really help you understand that you know your baby the best. You're the one who's advocating. You're the expert in your child. And although our therapists and our pediatricians and your physicians in your family, in your child's world are there to support your child, you know your child best. So if you have things that you want to discuss with your therapists and your pediatricians, this is where you do it. And then what things you can do to support that development. So how you help your baby learn and grow. And it's one of my favorite websites. It really is supportive of at every particular age. And there are 6 areas of development. And it will, each age is describes skill development at different developmental levels. So we have cognition, expressive language, and receptive language, because we said those are separated out. There's motor, social emotional development, and adaptive skills, which are self-help skills. So these documents will help you identify the different areas of development for your child and ways that you can support. Again, they're at the well visit frequency. So 6 months, I'm going to scroll super fast to show you that towards the end, there's a 4-year and then a 5-year. So it goes all the way up to age 5. So I'm going to stop sharing and then get to the chat, and I'm going to show you what my next link that I was sharing is. Okay, this is our website. So share screen. Here we go. Can you see our website? Okay, thanks. So what I did is I created the link that takes you straight over to our eligibility so that you can apply in online using these tabs. If you're interested in a PDF application, you can print it out and send it in as well. But these links with these purple tabs, you can fill it out online, you can sign it online, and it will submit it online. You will also get an email confirmation back that we received it. This is a very efficient way for us to receive it, and it includes the consent forms that we need in order to evaluate your child. The PDF is also available, and if somebody doesn't have access to a website, you can call us and we'll mail you the PDF application. So this is our website. We have a lot of valuable information, including our calendar events, which included today's town hall. And then I'm going to stop sharing and click the last resource that I have in here, which is the DDS. Okay. This is DDS's website. DDS, Department of Developmental Services, is the agency that oversees regional centers throughout all of California. There are 21 regional centers throughout the state. DDS oversees us. So this particular flyer and is the one that I put into the link, but you could back out just to the dds.california.gov to get all of their entire website. In fact, I'll show you when we're done. But what this particular flyer is on the website describes what Early Start is. And maybe this is also a little helpful for that first question that came about where to find out what exactly Early Start is. This is what Early Start is. This describes the program. And it describes what it is that you can do to start the program. And then these are the list of services that are available should your child find that we assess that need and that we can provide that. Ms. Ackerman talked about a number of these services. So this lists all the potential services that a child can receive in Early Start. If I back out that. This is DDS's website, and here is Early Start. But for those who had questions about over age 3, this website can give you, in addition to our own website, can give you information on what regional centers can do. And then this tab is specific to Early Start. So those are the resources that I have that are available to you. Just the last finding out if there are any of the parents that are in the audience rather than on our panel that are on the wrong site, definitely let us know. Otherwise, are there any other questions for any panelist here? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I don't know if we can end 10 minutes early, but those are the information that I have. One more question, yes. What do you think is the biggest confusion parents have about the Early Start program? Wow. Paula, Maria, I don't know if you have what the biggest confusion is. I think some of the confusion is what happens as we approach age 3. You know, there's a lot of programs that are available when a child turns 3, and really understanding the different programs is, especially if a family has come to the regional center and their child's already over age 2, it can be overwhelming with the number of resources and options that they have. So understanding that there's the Early Start program and that there's the school district for special ed, and that we can also assess your child for a developmental disability for ongoing regional center services. So I think in my experience, if I were to think of the most confusing thing is, as a child's approaching age 3, they're getting a lot of assessments from a lot of different agencies, and really knowing which agency is what in terms of what they provide. And one is through the school district, one is Early Start, and one is ongoing regional center services. And our service coordinators are trained to, starting at 2 years, 6 months, to explain that to families. And we provide that information in an individualized meeting, the IFSP, that's just the service coordinator and the family. And then we also have opportunities for informational meetings where we have transition workshops that are for the public. We have, before COVID, we had them in person. Now we have them remotely, but they're individualized to the Valley to kind of explain the transition to the special ed program and the difference between that and ongoing regional center services. We have an Early Start new parent orientation as well, which is for a parent who is new to the Early Start program. Once your child's eligible, we can provide the flyer to a family where they can join our orientation and learn a little bit about what Early Start is. Because depending on the age of the child, there are certain other resources that are available to them. I don't know if Paula and Maria, if you had things you'd want to add to that. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the most confusing things parents have is about using their insurance. And that's because we are a payer of last resort. So we have to use all generic resources to provide services first. So if your insurance covers physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy, then you would need to get those services through your insurance, as long as it's private insurance. But we still can cover the copays and deductibles because there should be no cost to you at all.
I agree. I think that is also something parents have questions about. Maria, I don't know if you had anything or if we hit on that for you.
You hit on everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
If there are no further questions, we thank you all for attending. Thank you for our parent that presented, and we, oh, looks like Diana Padilla Garcia has a question. We're going to allow her to speak. Thank you, Ms. Padilla. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry, I was trying to raise my hand. I just had a question regarding the extensions. So I know you did mention that early Head Start programs end at age 3, but this year we had all of these extensions because of the delays from COVID. So how are you guys working through that? Because my son, he was cut off at age 3 in October of last year. And when I had my IPP in February, they were like, oh, he can continue to receive speech and developmental program. But wait, he was already cut off in October. So why are they coming up with that now? And they didn't want to restart it since they had already ended it. So I mean, I filed a complaint for that, but I haven't had a resolution about it. So is this still going on? Have you guys finally ended it, or what's going on?
Well, the DDS has rescinded the Early Start extensions. It starting October 3rd, it has been rescinded. The directive was in place for children who had not transitioned to the school district yet and had not held their IEP. So last October, when your child turned 3, there would have been that discussion about whether those extensions would be appropriate. What are the generic resources that were available to you and your child? I can't speak to your specific situation and what was discussed in your IPP or about whether. Mhm.
Well, that's very unfortunate that you guys are doing stuff like this. And when I say you, it's nothing personal, because I have people that get offended when I say you. I mean regional center. It's very disappointing because my son turned 3 October 6th. So if you guys knew this October 3, why did you guys end my son's services? He was still not in the school district because it's been taking you guys so long to send documents over for them to schedule anything. So my son was abandoned by the system in regional center and both the school districts. So I had to pay out of pocket because I wasn't going to let my son just sit at home without the supports that he needed. So that was my complaint. And there is fundamental grounds on it. You guys failed him. So that's unacceptable that this is happening to our kids. And I mean, that's why we parents complain about the lack of services and the lack of attention that you regional center are giving to our kids, the most needy kids. So, I mean, that's a problem, a big problem that we have in our regional center.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to speak with the service coordinator or even the supervisor. I'm going to put my email address in the chat as well. If you want to send me an email of the specific, who your child is, I can make sure it gets to the right people who can respond to your concern, because I don't know the specifics. So it would be really difficult for me to let you know what should have happened. I would need to look into it, but what you can do is please feel free to email me. I'm very open to helping you get to the right person who could really answer that question. Our goal is to make sure that our consumers are getting their needs met, but and that we're also following whatever laws that we need to follow and making sure that the right entities are meeting those needs. So I please do welcome you to email me, and I'll make sure that whoever is the person to okay, and I see your email in there. And Sylvia, I'm assuming we have access to this chat later, but please do email me and let me know, and I will be happy to make sure that you connect with the right person to get your concerns looked at. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I think we have about a minute or two left if there's anything that someone. Otherwise, I just really want to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate the interest in Early Start and what our parents experience in our program. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.